Jurak Classic Whole Body Tonic is a dietary supplement, not a drug. Therefore, it is useful to affect the structure and/or function of your body in various ways, but it is not intended to and will not cure, mitigate, treat, or prevent any disease. Individual testimonials may not be everyone's experience and do not constitute scientific evidence. Jurak Corporation does not make any drug or treatment claims for its product.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great call once again. It is part and parcel of the Carl Jurak story. That's my dad. And it is amazing how I'm thinking of this and doing these calls because a lot of things are coming back. You know, you sort of tend to put things on the back burner. But I was musing the other day, does anybody ever wonder why we are here? You know, what's the purpose of us being here, living, doing things day to day? Is there a purpose? And I started thinking, my father put this preparation on the market in 1943. And on our label, on our JC Tonic bottle, we marked on it since 1943, tested in the finest laboratory in the world, the human body. Who can say that? Just who can say that? I think aspirin is about the only thing that's been on the market longer. So can this be the reason and the purpose of my life, of your life, of all our lives that this has touched? Because I have to tell you, folks, between the time when my dad put it on the market in 1943, and then I kept it going in the 60s, trying to market it in the 70s, finally starting to market it in a big, big way in 1984 for about 10 years, and then launching the JC Tonic, the original preparation, in 1997, and still at it. And look at all the people who have continued. We have had guests who started way back 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. There is one lady that I got a call from recently who said that as a child in northern Michigan, she remembers a salesman traveling around selling Matonol. That was the name of my father's product in the 40s and 50s, Matonol. I was floored when she called. So, look, I was a child when my father started making this, as she was when salesmen were driving around selling it. Because my dad was doing this as we do it today, as network marketing. And he had distributors here, there, and everywhere. Most of it was in Quebec and Ontario, but you know how things are, just as we are. We have some people now ordering from 10 different countries because they heard about it from somebody or their family. So is it the reason why we're here? I got to think about it, and I got to think, maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the reason. Why? Because it's doing so many people so much good. We have had, well, they're miracle stories. They're take up thy mattress and walk stories. They're amazing. And I hear them every day still, on and on and on. And so, yes, we are on a mission. And you know what the mission of this company is today? It is give the people of the world what they need before they know they need it. Ha! That's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? Give the people of the world what they need. Well, what they need, let's talk about this country only for the moment. What people need is good health. The health is terrible. It's not only hard on people, it's hard on their life, their lifestyle, their families. It's hard on them working properly without it affecting their work. It's hard on everything. It's hard on the budget. It's hard on the country. It's hard on everything. If no one was ill, can you just imagine how incredible life would be? Instead of meeting your friends and how you doing, John? Oh, golly, this is terrible. I feel, instead of that saying, oh, super duper, I did this today, I did that today. That's what we want to do. I think that's the purpose of this tonic. Because in every single case, from the time my dad started to test it back in 1922, and imagine, he left the old country in 1926 with my mother, Helena. They immigrated to Canada. He went out west in the middle of nowhere in Saskatchewan to do a job that he had had a mandate from the Department of Agriculture. And all through that, it was tough. I mean, he had a tough life. It was really not too civilized out there. The depression came along. That was hard on him, on everybody. Lucky he had enough means when they left the country. They had jewelry, and they sold it during the depression to have a reasonably good life. Otherwise, he'd be in the soup kitchen just like many doctors, lawyers, and everybody else were. So it was a tough life, and anywhere along the way he could have, forget this. What am I doing here? Let's concentrate on life and living and making our way through whatever. But he didn't. He continued to fiddle with his idea. And so through the years, he continued to perfect it, so to speak. When he left the old country, he had thought he had perfected it. It was really something special. People were getting this energy and starting to report different things. But he, in his heart, I guess, thought it's not quite what it was, what it should be. And he continued, as I said, fiddling with it. It was a lot more important than just fiddling. He was testing and trying different herbs. And finally, somewhere in the late 30s, I guess, or by 1940, he had finally put it all together. And so he decided to offer it commercially. Well, even that was during the war. And I remember during the war, I remember very well those years. And he was buying used whiskey bottles from a bottle exchange place because you could not buy new bottles. And he sterilized them, and he was using those to put his preparation in. Can you believe that? And that's what he started doing. And the label that we have, I have one or two original labels from 1940s there when he was making it. And I remember the fellow he hired to put labels on the bottles and fill them and so on and ship. And after school, we'd come home because my dad made his laboratory and his manufacturing in our house. And we would go down and we would hang out with, his name was Edgar. And he would he'd show us how to put glue on the labels and put them on the bottles. My brother Norman and I, it was a riot. And all those years, my dad he had decided, this is it, I'm going to make it commercially. And he started as a commercial business. Anywhere along the way, he could have been knocked over. He could have had other things. He could have had, there were problems in life and so on. But he continued. And what did I do this for? When I said in 1960, 61, I said, Dad, I'm going to pick up all what's left. I'm going to put it on the market one day. And he said, son, look, he said, continue your education, get yourself a good job, and forget this. It's really tough. But I was drinking it, and I knew what it was doing. And it was doing it for people that I knew who weren't even sick. And then I started looking at the stories, some of the testimonials that my dad was receiving. And the stories were not to be believed. I knew in my heart I had to continue, and I did. And in 1984, it just happened that a fellow said, why don't we try and do network marketing? And that took off like a rocket ship. I was going crazy trying to get supplies, trying to manufacture enough. We had 5 laboratories. I had 2 pharmaceutical laboratories. Burroughs Wellcome was one of them. I went to them. I said, can you make product for us? He said, no. Well, he said, we only make our own. I said, look, please, I'm on my knees, please. And they started looking at me and they said, what is it? And I told them, they said, how many bottles do you need? I said, how many can you make? Oh, they said, we have big time production here, I said, so how big? Oh, they said, 50, 100,000 bottles. I said, fine, I'll take it. Let's go. He looked at me like if I was a nut. They'd never heard about me. They never heard about the company. But that's what was happening. The sales were exploding, and I needed production. So I went to everybody, anywhere. We had one company in Southern California when we started in the U.S. They would make 40,000 dozens at a crack. We ordered 40,000 dozens at a crack, and it was never enough. This product can change the health of not only this country, but the world. And I need you to help me. This has to be a team effort. If you ever wondered what your reason for being on this earth is, just maybe this is it as well. Because this is my reason. I can tell. And I told my family I'm only going to do it till 100, then I'm going to retire. So they didn't think that was too funny. But you know what? Has to be done. And when we were in Quebec in that house of ours, my dad all of a sudden really started to produce. And the people were coming from the U.S., bringing it back. And as I said earlier, there are people out there selling it even down into Michigan. So this lady who is going to tell her story about Imagine, Matinol, that was really from the 40s. She will be on the call in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, I wanted to tell you that we have a really, really, really important guest. And this guest of ours has a story like no one else's. So, please give him a big round of applause, Mr. Lenny Atencio.
Oh, my.
Oh, Lenny.
Oh, boy, do I have an incredible story. That's true.
Oh, this is so great.
Gotta have some fun.
Look, if they don't all jump on the mission, Lenny, we can start Hollywood productions.
There you go. Oh, my.
Take it away, pal.
You know, I was so fortunate to get your dad's product way back in 1992, and I'll never forget when it came into our lives because my wife brought this white bottle with orange letters, KM on it, and I really got upset. I was like, are you insane? What is this stuff? Because I took a little swig. It was in the kitchen. I thought it was something really nice. And I was like, this stuff's horrible. And she says, no, you shouldn't. That's not for you. That's for me. And I'm like, what do you mean? She says, that's something for my health. And I said, well, how much did you pay for it? She says, it was like $38 back then. And I said, are you kidding me? I mean, we were struggling financially, because I was working actually in an assembly line. But the thing was, I was pretty ill myself. I mean, I was diagnosed with allergies like you wouldn't believe. I mean, if you want to know the guy in the bubble, pretty much that was me. And that's what the allergist professionals had told me, is that you're allergic to everything. And that's probably why you're having a lot of problems in your life. And folks, I had like a skin problem that was just horrifying. I mean, I was constantly breaking out with hives from head to foot, and it was just out of control. And my skin just was always burning and on fire, and I break out with these big lumps. And, I had asthma really bad, and my allergies were causing me to miss a lot of days at work and so forth. And so my wife says, you leave that stuff alone. That's for me. And, of course, as a curious husband, I started sneaking it. And after 3 days, I noticed my energy level just went sky high. I was like, holy cow. I was on the assembly line. Usually I'm like half dead because we had to be there at 5 a.m. And all of a sudden I came in with this incredible energy. So when I got home that third night, after taking it, I told my wife, what the heck? Call that lady up and ask her, give me a little bit more information how this, business model works too, because, boy, I felt pretty good. But, one of the two things that KM really helped me with was the energy, and it helped me with my allergies, which was a miracle in itself. But I was still, having a lot of health issues because earlier in my life, I was 23 when the doctors, they were really concerned because I was really having a hard time with pain. And again, my skin and everything was just outrageous. And it still was breaking out with those hives and so forth. And then I started with shingles. And, it was about like 1995 when I noticed my health really started to take a dive. And Jeannie was just like, we didn't know what to do. So but I kept drinking the KM at the time. And, I was faithful to it because I had the experience back in 92 all the way to 94, 95, I think. And then all of a sudden I noticed I just kept getting worse with my health. And about 1999 of April, I get this call from the lady telling me that, you should try this whole body tonic stuff, and I was just already pulling my hair out because the doctors had told me I was, pretty much dying. And there was nothing they can do for me anymore. So I was pretty much at the end of my rope at 37 years old. I mean, that's how old I was. And I was like an 80-year-old man just, ready to die. And the lady told me, after hanging up on her 3 times, and this is true story, but she was pretty persistent. And I hung up that phone the first time. I just, bam, I'm not interested. I have no money. I'm sick. And I'm like, I got a cabinet full of health stuff that my wife's been, trying to give me to see if we can make a change because the medical stuff wasn't working. So my wife says, you got to take, we got to find something. And so I was pretty upset. The lady calls me back. Well, we got free samples and stuff. And I'm, she's telling me all this stuff. And I said, didn't you hear me? I said, no. I hung it up again. She called back. I was like, well, this lady's killing me. I said, okay, where did this product come from and who's behind it? She says, well, the one who put this company together is Anthony Jurak. And I said, wait a minute, I'm confused. And she says, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm taking their product already. It's called KM. I've been taking it since 1992. It was already 1999, and I still had 3 bottles in the cupboard there and drinking it. But, of course, I was just drinking it because of the earlier results, but I was really deteriorating. And, eventually she just said the magic words, what if it works? I said, okay. I said, me and my wife will go try it. And folks, I had lost my eyesight by then, so I was pretty depressed. I had developed tumors. I had shingles that were so bad that even the doctors were blown away by it because my face would blow up like a basketball. And I was breaking out with that like every 6 months. It was like clockwork. And my skin rash was at a high time, all-time breakouts. And, boy, that was frustrating. So when we got JC Tonic, I'll never forget the first night that we got it. Just blew me away because I wasn't expecting anything, and I didn't want to get involved in any kind of network marketing because I had tried those in the past. And I was like, my wife, Jeannie, told me, you got to make a vow to me you're not going to join any network marketing company. And I said, I won't, because we were broke. I mean, we were actually eating at the food bank. We were losing our little home, which we were only, we only had a mortgage of like $350, but yet we had no money coming in because I couldn't work anymore. My wife was always constantly taking care of me, so she couldn't work. So financially, we were falling apart. So I told her, okay, we won't get involved with anything. So we went and got samples, and on that night, I drank like 3 ounces of this stuff, and I said, man, this stuff just doesn't taste good. But on the way home, it was amazing because I was holding the stuff because Jeannie drove. I hadn't drove for quite a while, and she did all the driving. So I was holding all the information that we got, and I picked up the little blue booklet, and I started to read the front about the thyroid and stuff, and Jeannie just started screaming while she's driving, and I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? So I ducked because I don't know what's going on. I went down to my knees, and she stops, slams on the brakes, and she says, you're reading. I said, what? She goes, how did you read that? Because folks, my eyes were always foggy, so I couldn't really see very clear. I wasn't completely blind, but it was like looking through a fog, windshield. But it was my right eye that kind of got clearer. And I was just astounded. She goes, I said, we have to have this stuff. She goes, yeah, but you know how much this stuff cost? She goes, we can't really afford this. On the way home, she was telling me the reasons why we can't get it, but how great, just that sign was. I didn't go to sleep. I actually stood up all night trying to figure out how I was going to afford this stuff. And I was thinking about the business part of it, but I had promised her I wouldn't, but it would give me the opportunity where it can help pay for it. So that's what my thinking was. And I could tell you, I did it. She woke up at 1 o'clock. What are you doing? What are you up still? I said, I'm trying to figure out how we could buy this stuff. And I figured out how we could do it. I said, we're going to become an ambassador of health. She says, no way. I said, yeah, because I know how to drink it for free. If we tell enough friends and sell some, that we'll be able to pay for our own. So I went through this whole scenario with her, and she was still freaking out. But I became an ambassador of health on the limb, and the product just started to change my life totally. Here, from being really deathly ill, I started to feel much better. My mind started to work. After a few months, I noticed the allergies and stuff, because they did get worse as time went by. everything started to feel better. And I was like, holy cow, this stuff is really good. So what happened is I started sharing some of my results, like telling the people the tumors went away, my eyesight got better on my right eye and so forth. So I was telling people why I looked better, because they were like, what are you and Jeannie doing? You guys look great. And before that, everybody knew I was really ill. I couldn't be around people with perfumes, cleaning supplies. I mean, I was just totally a wreck. People felt sorry for me and Jeannie, but now people were saying, what are you guys doing? I said, well, I'm taking this stuff. I was kind of scared to say too much because, you don't want to be a sales guy. I really wasn't that tight, but I did want to get people on this stuff. But people could see a difference in me. I mean, they were like, what are you doing? Friends I haven't seen in a long time. Wow, you and Jeannie look really healthy. And I said, I'm taking this JC Tonic stuff. And let me tell you, folks, I went, the doctors couldn't even believe the progress. Even the eye doctors were blown away by my results on the tonic, because I had to go in for my routine, yearly checkup for the eyes, because that's the way they do it when they put you on disability and stuff. And I remember the eye doctor looking into my eyes. Then he went back and got 3 of his other pals, and everybody's probing on me. And I'm like, what's going on? I mean, they had me and Jeannie scared. And they said, how are you seeing? I go, what do you mean? I said, I don't see perfect, but I'm able to see better than I used to. And they said, well, how are you doing that? Because when we look in the back of your eye, it's dark. You shouldn't be seeing at all. And I looked at Jeannie, and Jeannie looked at me, and I'm thinking, JC Tonic is a miracle. And boy, after 2 years, I tell you, my skin problems that I suffered with for 18 years were completely gone. I mean, I didn't suffer with hives anymore. I stopped breaking up with shingles. I was like a new man, and I looked younger and younger and younger. Here I was 37, dying like an 80-year-old guy, and all of a sudden it started to reverse. And one of the miracles, I got to tell you, Anthony, I got so much to say, but I had kind of hurt my neck because I started feeling so good. I started working out again. I went to the gym, and, man, I was like a new guy. I started doing pull-ups, but I hurt my neck. So, of course, Jeannie kept bugging me. You got to go to the chiropractor. And I said, no, I'll just keep drinking the tonic. And after 6 months, I said, it still hurts. So I went, checked it out. Chiropractor says, oh, Lenny, your record is a horrible one. I don't know if I should work on you because, you had scoliosis. And, I mean, I had all these bad back problems for years. So he was kind of scared to work on me right away. So he wanted to do new x-rays and stuff. So we did it. And he says, come back in the next day. He went in and he goes, oh my God. So again, I'm like, what's going on? Because he made it sound like I'm jacked up. He goes, you got a spine of a 21-year-old. He goes, I don't understand. Your records show you had scoliosis and everything. He goes, you have a perfectly straight spine. And he goes, the only problem you have right now is you must have really tweaked your neck. And he goes, I could fix that. He goes, amazing. What are you doing? JC Tonic. Of course, went in one ear, out the other, because they don't believe all this stuff. I mean, it was just incredible, some of the changes that I was going through. My eyebrows started growing back. My hair started coming back out because I was starting to lose it. I was itching so much before that I would itch my eyebrows off. I would itch my, kind of my hair was receding because I would itch and itch. And here now my hair's growing like a crazy teenager. And today, folks, I am 56 years old. I have incredible energy. I work out at the gym every morning. I get up at 5 o'clock, get to the gym by 5:30. I mean, I'm just a whole new young feeling person, and people still can't believe it. And one of the craziest things is this girl kind of got attracted to me, and I'm talking to her and so forth. And I'm like, how old are you? She said, she's 22. And I'm like, holy cow. I said, I'm really old. And she goes, oh, you can't be that much old. What, in your 30s or so? I said, no, I'm 56. It blew her away. I mean, she was just like, holy cow. I said, I have a granddaughter as old as you. But Anthony, I just can't tell you how much this has really saved my life. Health-wise, it's just unbelievable. And if you have any questions for me, but I tell you, I was literally miserable, wanting to die. And today, I have to tell people my JC Tonic story because it saved my life. I mean, that's just all I could tell you. I mean, I had a turnaround that even doctors today still can't believe it. Oh, I got to tell you this one. This one's crazy, but Last year, because I have to go in for my physicals. That's what our insurance makes you do. They kind of do it twice a year, but I went in to see my primary doctor. She did, she goes through all her routine. She checked my height, and she goes, "Holy cow!" I go, "What?" Everybody always scares me. She goes, "You almost grew an inch." She goes, "Wait a minute, I got to check this out." She goes, "No, my records show that." Oh, she goes, "I can't believe this. What's going on?" And I said, "Remember that stuff I kept telling you about?" I believe that if you drink JC Tonic long enough and through the years, incredible stuff starts to happen. That's all I could tell everybody is keep taking it, and you never know the next amazing thing that's going to happen to you. But I am thrilled. So, Anthony, I better shut up. I could go on for hours.
Well, Lenny, you can go on for hours with the greatest pleasure. But you're right, folks listening. It's a question of the continuity. You see, Lenny decided to stay with it, and he's been with it ever since. And I have to tell you also, when he said that he figured out a way how he can drink for free by sharing bottles with other people, well, he did it such big time that he was not only drinking free, he had free product for his family, for anybody and everybody. And Lenny was at that time really down and out. He mentioned he was eating in a food bank. They were broke, the mortgage, this and that. Well, the first month that he made $1,000, he almost had a heart attack, and then he made $5,000, and then he made $10,000. I mean, holy cow! And that was just by sharing this with other people, because really, Lenny is not the get up and go salesman. He does it the way he just said he does it. He shares it with people, tells them what it did for them, and encourages them to try it themselves. That's what we all are doing, and that's what you folks on the line could be doing every day, just to help out your neighbor, your friend, your loved one, your workmate. Everybody out there needs help. Not everybody is as in bad shape as Lenny was, but you know what? Half of the country is. Because look around you and look at the different people that you know who are popping 3, 4, 5 different pharmaceuticals and not getting well and looking old and losing their hair and losing their eyesight, and it goes on and on and on. So the whole deal comes back down to, if it worked on Lenny and it worked on me when I was 11 years old, and it's worked on tens and thousands of people across the land and across the world, then it'll work on you, and it'll work on all the rest of the people in this country if they have any blood in them. Now, if they don't have blood, no worky, but it's going to work, folks. And all we have to do is continue what Lenny did, what he suggests, and all of you help out, because this is a health crusade. We absolutely can get results. You've seen it yourselves. You can read on the website, go and click on Success Story Database. There are stories there that even after they were vetted by our FDA consultant, taking out any words that were a no-no, they still are outrageous stories. People get well. And this is not a cure for any of their illnesses. It is a regenerator of your body, a purifier and detoxifier of your bloodstream. It rebalances your systems. It rebalances your organs. It makes everything function better, like tuning up your car. And when that happens, believe me, this body was invented by somebody who knew what they were doing, and this body is able to look after itself if you give it a break. So that's what happened to Lenny. That's what's happened to all the people that my father shared this with over the years from 1922 onwards, and up through his trek to Canada. And he's, I was talking earlier about this could have disappeared at any time. Sure, it could have. He was in Saskatchewan, and my mother said, "Carl, this is crazy. I can't live like this. This is not civilized. I want to go back home to the old country." Well, as I had said on a previous call, he knew what was happening in Europe, and it wasn't a pretty picture, and he thought, what can we do? They went to Winnipeg, a little further east, which was a little bit more developed, but it still was like a cow town. And after a year there, my mother said, that's it. They went to Quebec City to wait for the steamer to go back to Europe. And Quebec City, of course, was developed 250 years before, and there was real buildings, and it was like a town, a city. And she fell in love with it because it felt a little bit like Europe, and yet, it was still Canada, and she liked it, and they decided to stay, and that's where they stayed. So any one of those things could have been the end of the tonic as we know it, and it would have never made it to market.
Yeah, Anthony, could I jump in for a second? Because I have a question, for all the audience too.
Sure.
Because KM did some good things for me, but when I drank JC Tonic, it was like a miraculous changeover. I mean, it was just, I thought KM was pretty good, but JC Tonic turned my whole life around. I mean, it took away all those ailments I had, plus. So I don't know, maybe the people out there may want to know why that happened, but JC Tonic is so superior compared to what KM was.
Well, just because the KM was not the complete formula, and that's a bit of a story into itself, folks. I was making this preparation for myself and friends and family, and when I'd be running down on one of the herbs, I put less in and less, and finally I ran out, so I took another one I had, I put a bit in. And so in the KM there are some different herbs that are not all these tonic herbs, but they are good herbs, and they worked well, and they were okay, and they helped to make the formula work quite well, as it worked with Lenny and tens of thousands of other people. But Lenny's on this call, and a lot of other people who were drinking the KM no longer drink it. They're drinking JC Tonic because they discovered JC Tonic, and they discovered that it is better and it works better. And a lot of them were saying, well, look, the other one's not working anymore. I don't know if that's true or what it is or why it would not work anymore. It never worked as well, but it worked pretty darn good. And what we had was what we had. And so, I stood by it. And I looked forward to people getting really great results. But when I found my dad's formula in my boxes there back in 1996 and decided I'm going to make a pilot batch, it's funny, in the summer of 98, I was making our first batch, and there was a fellow, he was a KM drinker, a Matol drinker, and he called me out of the blue and he said, Anthony, would your father have had anything else? He said, because the preparation, the KM, is not working anymore for me. I'm getting all my symptoms back. And I said, oh, funny you asked. As a matter of fact, I'm in the middle of now producing a pilot batch of the original formula of my dad. He says, no kidding, what is it? I said, well, I think it's better, but I said, I don't know until I make the batch and get some out there. But I said, it's the original formula, and those stories that my dad had back in the 40s and 50s. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, my dad was actually marketing it in the 40s and 50s. He said, we never heard that story at Matol. Well, I said, I know, because it was never told. So I said, that's what I'm doing, and I'll be happy to send you out some on me to give it a try. And I sent him a couple of quarts of it when this was over. He called me within a week. He said, I can't believe it. He said, I'm already feeling better. And he had, like Lenny, a turnaround like 180. I mean, total turnaround, that it was amazing. And even Lenny met him. Remember Everett, Lenny? And
yeah, I do.
Little by little, every time we saw him, he looked healthier and healthier and healthier. And this fellow, when we met him, I mean, his skin was green. It was actually greenish yellow. He was so sick, and this turned him around completely. Sure, it took some time, but it turned him around completely, as it has with Lenny and as it has with, name it, tens of thousands. So Lenny, it is because there were some ingredients missing and some that shouldn't have been there, but it was a pretty darn good product, and it worked to a certain extent for you and many others. And now, thankfully, I was able to start this and get my dad's original product back on the market, and here we are today with the most incredible results. Now all we have to do is get everybody on the call to do what you did, And folks, by the way, if you do what Lenny did, you too could make 2,000, 5,000, and 10,000. The sky's the limit. People ask me, new ambassadors, what should I do first? I said, put your head out your front door. If you see anybody on the street, go talk to them because they're all sick. So it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in a certain neighborhood or a certain anything, because everybody in this country is sick. So it doesn't matter. Probably out of 1,000 people, you'll talk to one person who says, no, I'm perfectly healthy. But more likely, the people you meet in church, at your work, at the exercise club, at the golf club, whatever you do, at the card party, at the bingo game, everybody's sick, everybody's popping pills. So we need your help. And Lenny, I'm going to give you the last word because you're going to tell them how they can get involved.
Just become an ambassador of health and drink it. And the results you get, people will notice. And when you start feeling good, you just start talking. I never try to sell it. Even today, I'm not out there, trying to pitch something. People are always complaining to me, and I just tell them what I do. And I show them my pictures that I have, because I have 2 pictures. One where my face was like exploded with like a basketball with the shingles, and then how clear my face got after, JC Tonic really kicked in. So I just show people and tell them my story, and they either say, I want to try it. And actually, yesterday in the parking lot, this lady and I were talking, and we got into conversation. She says, I've been looking for something to help, with Parkinson's, and there's a kid in her church that has, really bad health. So I just started telling her how I got better, and she couldn't believe my age. And I gave her the blue booklet, and she gave me her number, and I got to actually call her Monday. So I didn't try to sell anything. I just told her the story, and we'll see what happens. But that's all I do, folks. And if it wasn't for the network marketing plan, me and Jeannie would have never have bought it in the first place, because there was no way we could have afforded it. And I have to say the business part saved me too, financially, and gave me the opportunity to drink it. So just share it. Don't sell it. Let it sell itself, and become part of our Ambassador of Healthship. And if you want more information, just call home office.
Thank you so much. That was a really, really great delivery of a really, really important story for everybody. Folks, thank you very much for being here. We'll be back next week, and we will continue the Carl story. There's quite a few more wonderful episodes, and of course, we're going to have a great guest, and maybe at that point, some of you will be back on the call as an ambassador. So do call home office, leave a message. Thanks, Lenny. Thanks, everybody, and good night once again. Take it out and feel the bounce. We'll see you next week.